Conservatism. You hear that word all the time, right? It shapes elections, it drives policy, it defines entire cultures. But a lot of the time, it gets boiled down to just a simple caricature. In this explainer, we're going to go way beyond the headlines to really understand the deep philosophical ideas that make this ideology tick.
So let me ask you, when you hear the word conservative, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of people, it's all about, resisting change, wanting to keep things exactly as they are. But is that really the whole story? Oh, not even close. We're about to peel back all those layers to get to the philosophical core of what really drives conservative thinking.
So where do we begin? Well, to really get a handle on conservatism, you have to look at its foundation, its bedrock. Turns out it's built on three core principles that pretty much influence everything, from its view of human nature all the way to its approach to government.
Okay, first up is pragmatism. Now, don't think of this as some rigid ideological blueprint. It's the exact opposite. It's a flexible approach. You have thinkers like the famous Edmund Burke, who argued that conservatism is all about focusing on practical experience, on what actually works in the real world to keep society stable, instead of chasing after some abstract, perfect world ideals.
And that practical focus on what works leads us right to the second big principle, tradition. For conservatives, tradition isn't just about being old-fashioned or nostalgic. No, it's seen as the ultimate test of time. It's the accumulated wisdom of all the generations that came before us. These institutions, these customs, they're like an anchor, giving us identity and stability in a world that's always changing.
And wow, this quote from Edmund Burke just nails that idea perfectly. It captures the conservative view of society in a nutshell. It's not just a contract for us right here, right now. It's this deep intergenerational partnership. And when you see it that way, you can understand why radical change is seen as so dangerous, because it threatens to break this vinyl chain that connects the past, the present, and the future.
The final core principle. Honestly, this might be the most important one of them all. It's a deep-seated belief in human imperfection. This is the idea that at our core, human beings are flawed, and we can't be perfected. And let me tell you, this single belief profoundly shapes the entire conservative outlook on pretty much everything. And this slide breaks it down into three really fascinating parts. First, psychologically. Conservatives tend to see us as creatures who crave security and a sense of belonging, not necessarily radical freedom. Second, morally. Well, we're all flawed, aren't we? And that's exactly why a strong system of law and order is seen as absolutely non-negotiable. And finally, intellectually. The idea here is that our own reason is limited. This explains that deep skepticism conservatives have for grand, abstract theories that promise to tear everything down and remake the world from scratch. All right, so you take these three big ideas, pragmatism, tradition, and human imperfection, and you put them all together, what do you get? You get the guiding vision for many, many conservatives, this concept of an organic society. This is such a fantastic way to understand the difference. While some ideologies see society as a kind of machine, something you can take apart and re-engineer for a better model, conservatives see it as a living, breathing organism. It's this complex, interconnected thing that has grown naturally over centuries. You can't just go ripping parts out without risking the health of the entire body. And this vision of an organic society is held up by three key pillars. First, hierarchy. It's seen as natural and even inevitable. Different people just have different roles to play. And to make that hierarchy work, you need the second pillar, authority, which flows from the top down to provide guidance and stability. But, and this is crucial, that authority comes with a profound responsibility, which brings us to paternalism. Paternalism here basically means that with power and privilege comes a serious responsibility. It's captured perfectly in this old French phrase, noblesse oblige, which literally means nobility obligates. The idea is that the most privileged in society have a kind of fatherly duty to look after the welfare of everyone else, making sure the entire social organism stays healthy. But here's the plot twist. Just when you think you've got conservatism all figured out, you discover it's not one single unified thing. Nope. Over the last half-century or so, a massive fracture has opened up, creating two very, very different versions of conservative thought. So, for decades after World War II, a more pragmatic, paternalistic kind of conservatism was the norm. But by the 1970s, you had all these economic crises, and people were getting really dissatisfied. This chaos paved the way for a brand new and pretty radical movement, the New Right, championed by huge figures like Margaret Thatcher in the UK
and Ronald Reagan over in the US.
And the new right is this fascinating and honestly kind of contradictory blend of two totally different ideas. On one hand, you've got neoliberalism, which is all about free markets, individual liberty, and shrinking the state down to almost nothing. But on the other hand, you have neoconservatism, which calls for a really strong state to enforce traditional values and maintain tough law and order. It's like a small state for the economy, but a strong state for society.
And this slide just lays out that central conflict perfectly. Look at the economy. Where traditional conservatism is pragmatic and accepts a welfare state, the new right is radically pro-free market. On society, where traditionalists see that organic community with a duty of care, the new right sees a collection of self-reliant individuals. This tension, this internal battle between a small state and a strong state, that is the defining fracture within conservatism today.
So, when we wrap it all up, what's the big takeaway? It's that conservatism is anything but simple. It's this dynamic, evolving, and often contradictory school of thought, constantly caught in a tug-of-war between its traditional desire to preserve and its more radical impulse to liberate the market and the individual. And that leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. As we all face the massive challenges of the 21st century, which of these two faces of conservatism, the paternalistic traditionalist or the free market radical, is going to win out and end up shaping our future?